Welcome everyone. This is the weekly crypto recap where we go over all of the news that happens throughout the week. And I'm absolutely delighted to have on the show today Zach Boyd, aka Chris Karabatz of Smart Cash, and Ash Oro, who is from EOS. Thank you both so much. EOS Radio, I should say, Ash.
There you go. All right.
Welcome both of you to the show.
Hey, thank you, Naomi.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, delighted to have you, and very excited because there's lots going on. And Ash, I mean, because you host EOS Radio, I thought that maybe we would talk a little bit about this EOS hack that's happened, because there's a lot to unpack there, a lot going on. But before we go into that, I did want to start off today with something a little bit different, something that has been quite controversial this week. And a lot of people are like up in arms. I tweeted about it, asking people how they felt. So Coinbase apparently has acquired a company called Neutrino. Now, in any other week, you might just say, oh, cool, a large company has acquired a smaller one. They are doing analytics stuff, seems fine. What's the issue? Where's the news, you know? But this is actually quite controversial because of the history of this company, Neutrino. And it's this fascinating history, and a lot of people are actually a little bit scared about what's happening here. And I just wanted to talk about this on the show and find out your opinions, guys. So if you wanted to give some background on what's going on here with Neutrino.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Neutrino was founded by people who also started an older company called a hacking team. They sold spyware to authoritarian regimes. They've supposedly violated sanctions against those regimes and everything. So basically, this is a group of people who track other people. So those of us in the crypto space who value our freedom and potentially our anonymity and whatnot, these are people who are building software to try to keep that from you. And are we surprised that Coinbase is bringing people like this on? I mean, no, there's a lot of these groups in the crypto space, you know, just like when Dash hired that company years ago and whatnot, it's all part of the same game where Coinbase is a bank-owned corporation trying to work well within regulation and bounds of law. So they are trying to show the government that they are willing to play nice, build the tools, and
deliver them the tax product that they're looking for.
Exactly, because we are the tax product.
Yeah, for sure. You know, Coinbase hired this team, and I'm sure they're being told that they need to up their compliance, which means track us more closely. It's no different than what I saw in the offshore banking system as well. If you're willing to play by the rules and you can network and know the right people, then it's much harder to compete against you because of the monopoly privileges and the licensing that government gives you. So look, they're playing one game. A lot of freedom related people don't like that game, and so the outrage is kind of understood.
Absolutely. So can we also talk a little bit about the background of Neutrino? You talked about how the founders or the main people involved were also involved in this hacking team. And there's a little bit more to it than that. So apparently this hacking company almost went bankrupt a little while ago. I can't remember how much. I'm going to pull up an article. But what happened was they basically got a new contract by, I think, some Middle Eastern government contract, and then got back into business. So there's all these different things going on with them involved with government and involved in spying and all of this, and now they're working for the Coinbase. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, they like that close comfort of working with legislation teams, apparently.
I wonder if Ben Lawson's going to join the board.
Well, I mean, he's already with XRP, but I'm sure he'd be happy to double dip.
Yeah, we already know that's the case.
Speaking of Coinbase, they recently listed XRP. How do you feel about that?
There's a lot to unpack there. So if we wanted to move on to that. So I mean, a lot of people are up in arms, right? And they're saying XRP is the worst. And this was a long time coming, right? Coinbase was kind of listing everything but XRP and the XRP community. It was quite enjoyable to watch them and go out of their minds, like, why are you ignoring us? But this has finally happened. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about a voluntary system, is that if you don't like a currency, you don't have to use the currency. There are all these options out there of places where you can trade different currencies of your choosing. Coinbase is choosing to, you know, list another currency that you can choose to or to not trade. So I think that, like, great, whatever's out there, it is fine. I mean, I think that also, like, when you were talking about XRP, everyone sort of expected that, and the XRP community expected, like, oh, well, we're going to be the medium that changes things in between the big banks, and you know, we're going to be that interface. But then JP Morgan came around. We're like, oh, we're going to just backtrack on our whole fraud thing, and we're getting into cryptocurrency now as well. And so then you really saw XRP take a hit when that happened, right? And a lot of people didn't expect JP Morgan to come out of there. I mean, obviously we all expected it, but it was kind of interesting just to watch XRP really take a hit when that happened. And now they've got a rival. You've got these two juggernauts. You've got, like, the Ben Lawsky mobile versus
the JP Morgan.
Yeah, like, so it's like this big battle, or maybe this clash of the behemoths that we'll see play out. Like, I'm not going to be involved with either of them, so yeah, I'm happy to just kind of watch from afar and see what happens. I'll kind of be curious in the same way that, you know, as I watch the British pound versus the euro versus the US dollar, they're kind of like, oh, great, they're those things that governments are involved with. So, yeah. I mean, how do you guys feel about it?
I mean, we should expect these people to come in. You know, I mean, it's not like the large financial system is just going to be like, oh, look at all of you. You've made these public blockchains. Let me buy all of your coins. You know,
that's not how this works.
You know, they're going to come into the space. They're going to try to use their privileged positions, and they're going to compete with each other. But luckily this time they have to also compete with us. And this is a big difference here. They've never really had to compete with us being free people that can build our own money and monetary systems. So, you know, good luck to them. They're fighting an uphill battle here. You know, they're going to have a good acceleration head start here because just so many people know who they are, and they have so much money. And they're going to be seen in some circles as carrying less risk. So they do have an advantage there. But it's going to be fun to play out.
And that even assumes that, you know, JP Morgan coin actually gets publicly traded at any point. I mean, right now it is just being used for internal settlement between its own banks, and which is fine. That's a fine use for it. Whatever, it saves them effort, and you know that really shows the inherent weakness in the coins like XRP that are trying to target that bank market, where the banks are like, why wouldn't we just do this ourselves?
Yeah, it's like a small bank trying to break in
everywhere. Right. Yeah, exactly. And even though, yeah, sure, they have Lawsky and whatever, but he's just some random ex-politician, where, you know, JP Morgan has 100 and some odd years of being JP Morgan and Chase.
JP Morgan has, like, you know, 121 different Ben Lawskys on their team. So they are old hats.
Yeah. I mean, it's no different than having a small bank trying to break into the large banking system. And, you know, XRP is, we think they're really big, XRP or Ripple or whatever. Oh God, here comes the angry mob community. Tell me that. Oh God, I should just shut up. I'll just be quiet on this.
That's how we get views, right?
Correct. Let's do an episode entirely on that, on the history of Ripple, and then the change in product that happened somewhere along the way, and then the involvement of XRP, and then the disassociation of XRP from Ripple. Apparently, they're completely different things because we're not a security. Like, let's do an episode going into that history, because that is fascinating. I'm going to schedule that.
I miss the good old days when the only token we hated was Ripple, and now it's like I don't even know who to hate anymore. I just hate.
XRP X, the new one that they got out.
We used to all band together around this hatred for Ripple, and now we're talking about maybe it has some use case within the banking industry. Look how things change.
Excited. Do we hate Ripple? Do we hate Muriel? Craig? Do we hate George? I don't know. There's a lot going on.
Speaking of coins to hate, should we move on to the other cryptocurrency?
Move on to Facebook.
Well, before we go on to that, I do want to just mention, so, like, talking about listing fees, we've talked about this in the past. We've talked about Binance, and people are up in arms about we got charged a lot of money to be listed there and all of this. And so Coinbase has come out and say, well, you know, no one affected our decision to list them. This was entirely independent. People were saying that, you know, maybe Ripple or XRP gave them money or gave them something in order to have them listed, which is not uncommon at all in crypto exchanges. You know, there's people have these private platforms that they've set up, and if you want to be visible on this platform, that they put a lot of resources into making this visible platform, then you pay to play, right? And so a lot of people were very worried that that was happening with Coinbase. They've denied it. Like, what do we even think about that? Like, I mean, I think that on the one hand, like, I think that they just need to be transparent. I think they can do whatever they want, in my opinion. We don't really know the legalities of this at the moment because the government's still trying to decide how they're classifying all of this stuff. But I think that as long as it's transparent, as long as I know, oh, well, Binance only lists things that pay them $5 million, then that's just good to know, right? And I think that people shouldn't be up in arms about like, oh, they cheated by paying to get on this platform. It's like, well, just be transparent about it. Just let us know, like, did you list them because you think they're a good coin? Did you think there's a lot of market for this? Like, what are the reasons there? Were you paid, etc.?
It surprises me that so many people are upset or affected by this, and it's probably only the people that wish their coin was listed on Coinbase, so they got a pump. So I mean, it's just a business, you know, it's a revenue stream for Coinbase, and they've built a really impressive system there, a company there, and if you know. Of course, who knows if they get paid, and who even knows how much work goes into reviewing and listing a new token. Maybe that's covering their costs. Who knows? People just so much drama. I can tell we had a month of a monthly green candle because everybody's starting to get all excited on Twitter. I know, they're like 75. Everybody's looking at shit all of a sudden.
We want to have stuff to complain about other than the price.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh yeah, the price is all right. Well, look at all this.
I think part of the reason people get upset about Binance and stuff is what you said, the lack of transparency. And you know, they say, oh, we're launching this awesome new coin that just happened to give us $5 million, but it's an awesome new coin. But you know, and people get worried about, you know, what is actually the product that Binance is selling. Like, you know, for example, we were just about to talk about Facebook. We all know that with Facebook, we're the product. But with Binance, what is the product? Because, you know, we're paying them to trade and buy their coin and whatnot. And then if the coins are paying them to list as well, I mean, where's the motivation? And who are you actually servicing and serving there as a business? So whose interests come first? And that's what people really, they just want to know what's going on versus it being all shadowy and underhanded.
And it's like, how much of the product am I?
Yeah, exactly. That's what you really want to know. I mean,
that's what I want to know. How much of the product am I?
So that's what people get to me. You know, and you know, with the whole Coinbase and XRP thing, oh, they didn't pay us. Okay, this happened right when you bought Neutrino. There's obviously stuff happening in the background that we aren't aware of. I mean, this is, I mean, come on, we're not that stupid.
Yeah, there are lots of things going on there. And you mentioned Facebook, so let's go into that then.
Yeah. You want to start, Chris?
Well, my favorite thing, I mean, sure. I mean, we all knew that Facebook would try to launch their own cryptocurrency. And indeed, it probably will do quite well if they do, if they make it work very well in their messenger app and able to send money back and forth. And if they make it work in other messenger apps too. But, you know, my favorite thing is, you know, every time someone posts about this on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, somebody posts that little bit from Mr. Robot where the Evil Corp guy is talking about Evil Coin.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I don't want to go so far as to call it evil. I mean, Facebook has created a lot of value in the world and opened up a lot of opportunities for us to connect with each other. Yes, in a centralized fashion, but it was really awesome for a really long time. You know, I think for me, what this proves is not only more confidence that, you know, this cryptocurrency thing is going to absolutely explode one day. You know, unlike any type of explosion we've seen, we're seeing big companies come on and embrace it. So I think we as a cryptocurrency community should really embrace Facebook coming over and creating their own token. Look, there's going to be so much competition in so many areas of this whole restructuring the internet and society to be a blockchain-based internet and blockchain-based society that we're going to see thousands of these things come and go. And I'm also really excited that, for me, you know, back in 2016, I was blown away by the Steem project, the steemit.com project. And it seemed like our society, a lot of societies around the world, are very ripe for the idea of cryptocurrencies, blockchain, and social media. Now, Facebook most likely isn't going to put, integrate blockchain into their service, but maybe only to the point where they can distribute a token. A lot of businesses aren't going to need smart contracts and rewrite all their business structure. They'll just add a token, but that's a leg into the blockchain world itself. I think what we're going to see is when and if Facebook rolls out their token, it's going to really validate the whole Steemit model, the decentralized blockchain-based social media, and we could see a trend starting there.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that the Steem is so important as this model in the ecosystem, just because it had such a great network effect, and there have been lots of platforms that I think are better than Steem. And I think that there are different models that people are changing the underlying protocol like slightly in different ways, experimenting, and I love watching that. But let's be honest, Steem is by far, and Steemit is by far the largest platform of its kind out there with the largest network effect. I put all of my stuff there, and I'm so grateful that I can actually earn money off my content, through a platform out there. Like, you just don't get that, and unless it's through donations, like an individual deciding, well, I'll give this money, which is in my pocket, put it into your pocket, which is like a big ask. You're asking people to voluntarily, pay for this content that you would otherwise put out there for free. So that's like a big thing that people do. But with Steem, it's like this different mindset, and I wonder how Facebook is going to be working this system. Is it going to be just like their Facebook Cash type thing? Are they going to, every time every part of Facebook coin, like a portion of it is earmarked and put into a fund that can then be distributed the same way the Steem is, so it's not actually coming out of your pocket. It's just weighted by how many upvotes you get. Like, interesting what direction they're going to go in.
So interesting. Oh, go ahead. I think we skipped it. Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
You already had Twitter and Jack Dorsey talking about putting tweets on the blockchain and making them immutable. We have this concept of immutability is catching on.
Now, first of all, Jack says that he's not giving us an edit button, and then he says we're going to put these tweets on the blockchain forever.
I mean, it's one thing to integrate blockchain into your social media platform to store everything on chain. And maybe that's just an option, but a lot of people don't want to store everything on chain. But it's another thing to just integrate a token in your social media platform and try to create a more free economy between your users specifically. Right now it's just mainly users to Facebook, Facebook to users. Yeah, I know we can send dollars through their Messenger app and stuff, but there's a very restricted economy within the centralized Facebook structure as it stands right now. If they do integrate some sort of blockchain tech and establish a token, figure out how to distribute it, figure out its utility, and even maybe do some revenue sharing with people who are showing they're part of their community, the Facebook community, by staking the coin, or maybe you stake it to power up, or you can use it to upvote and distribute tokens like the Steemit model to pay people for posting. I think it's actually really wonderful. I'm very bullish on social media and blockchain integration, and I hope Facebook literally helps us lead the way.
But I don't think they're going to be such a help. I mean,
I don't think they will.
I think the next wave in crypto adoption is going to come from content creators. I think you're absolutely right that we've had this whole untapped market we have not even really started or gone past the tip of the iceberg with. But what's most exciting for me about those platforms is that they're using this decentralized money that can't be shut down. I mean, you put Facebook into the mix, suddenly you had this intermediary, and then you're like, what is crypto solving in that instance? Like, it's not solving censorship. It's not a censorship-free money, because Facebook will shut that down as soon as they want to, right? Like, the only reason that I think that crypto is exciting in the world of social media, in the world of content creators, is that you have all these deplatformed people who've been kicked off Patreon, who've been kicked off, who've been demonetized from Subscribestar because Stripe and PayPal pulled their services. All of these people who are just saying, like, I want a voice. I want to be part of this social media, revolution that's going on, but I have no voice. I've been kicked off. I'm being silenced. I have nowhere to.
Or I can't get paid.
Exactly. And how are they meant to be actually focusing? How can they justify focusing time on this stuff if they can't find a way to make it sustainable? And that's why crypto is impressive to me, because this provides a real use case that has yet to be tapped. And so Facebook, yeah, that's kind of interesting, but I'm not that excited because it's just another centralized system that can.
It is. it is another centralized system, but think about it. Okay, maybe it is centralized. That's fine. If people are getting rewarded in Facebook tokens for creating content and they can cash those Facebook tokens out for their local currency or for Bitcoin, then I think that's an enormous step forward in social media and even just crypto token transfers itself. Maybe not even the type of blockchain, decentralized blockchain that we're fans of, but even if they just integrated a centralized token, start giving that out, profit sharing, then people could legitimately make $50, $20 a month on this stuff. And $20 a month, $50 a month means a lot in a lot of places in the world. So I'm just careful to discount them because I don't know exactly what they're going to be building. I'm super familiar with Steem and some of the Steem alternatives. And whatever, as a content creator myself, I wish that it was easier, continuing to get easier to create, earn money by creating content.
Yeah, for sure. And I do want to give a huge shout out to Cybercode Twins. They sent through a super chat on Google. So talking about monetizing and all of that. I really, really appreciate that. I actually met them in Puerto Rico last year. So that was really, really awesome. Great to have you here on the chat. Also, use Bitbacker because you can use crypto and Google doesn't take 30%. Bitbacker.io, this great new platform that content creators should try out. No, but in all seriousness, you see places like Bitbacker come out of this the rubble of what Patreon created. All these people being kicked off. You see Subscribestar doing the same thing, coming out as an alternative for people, saying, this is what the market demands. You have this whole sector of the population that's being silenced, being demonetized, being deplatformed, and this is providing alternatives. So
we want to get paid for our content. That's the shift here, and Facebook is realizing that, and it's awesome.
Well, you know what I'd like to see with Facebook? I mean, I saw a real shift happening when we're talking about ownership of data. And, if I'm clicking on an Instagram photo and liking that, why doesn't my action on Instagram, for example, come back to me in the form of some sort of cashback rewards or something?
Yeah, I'm engaging. Yeah, for sure.
Rather than Google being this centerpiece for advertising, where everything goes through them, they take a huge chunk of it because they're providing a great service. But the problem is that the consumers and the audience that these ads are being put in front of, they're not the same thing, and it's really, really difficult to pin down the audience for your product. And what things like monetizing directly peer-to-peer would do, it would actually the money would go directly from consumer, you directly be paying from your product to the consumer in the form of cashback that they could then spend at your store. You'd be finding your audience a lot easier. There are lots of different potential for blockchain to work in the ad space as well.
For sure. It's just amazing that we get to reconfigure and play with all these models, all these financial models and monetary models. Those that have had monopoly privilege of these tinkering with financial models and stuff are in big trouble. They don't know what competition is down the pipe, or maybe they do now. I don't know, but inflation.
And that's the whole point. That's what we're trying to push for, is that competition, is that free market money. And if Facebook wants to compete on that level, cool, more power to them. That's great. If Facebook is going to try to leverage its government contracts and connections to make Facebook coin something
the
special,
only social media coin. Just the private business. Well, I guess they're not public now, but just a business coming in and trying to establish their own money. Hey, we're now in the global race to who can figure out money the best.
Right.
Good luck, US dollar and all these fiat currencies.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've had no innovation in this sector for however long, and now we have this big bloom of everyone saying we want our own money, and it's going to be slightly different from yours.
It's the renaissance of money. It's awesome.
It's very cool. So we'll have to see how that plays out. I want to shift tracks a little bit. I want to talk about, because there are always hacks going on, and I like to keep people abreast of what's going on in that sector. So to start off with, let's talk about the EOS hack that happened, which wasn't really a hack. And Ash, you should start off with this one because you understand in depth what went on there. So talk us through that.
Sure. It's never a dull day in crypto Twitter, that's for sure. And so what happened was a large token holder in EOS lost lost ownership of his private keys. And so this really isn't any different than any other blockchain that we know of. If somebody gets your private keys and you lose control over them, then your money's gone, and that's that. I mean, it happens all the time on every blockchain for the most part. What made this one make news is that in EOS, since we have, and I say we, I'm in no part with Block One. I just hang out in the community, and that's the community I keep up with the most. But in EOS, it was advertised pre-launch as a governed blockchain. And people, as you would expect, have their own understanding and definition of what governance is in general and what a governed blockchain would look like, and actually how it would be built and executed. And a couple guys that were working at Block One, which is the creator of the open source EOS.io software, they were shuffling things around kind of last minute, and were trying to build out a constitution that everyone had to abide by and accept, kind of the US Constitution. And within that, they were trying to break up and create these different stages, different areas of government, kind of like the judicial, the executive, the legislature, whatever. They were trying to replicate that framework inside a blockchain community. And needless to say, these were some of the guys that were let go immediately after, very short after the EOS mainnet launch. But we were still kind of stuck with their old legacy world thinking of governance, and part of that. So they really saw themselves as a branch of government. And so early on, we had an issue where a very large token holder, he got hacked, and there were other hackings and thefts were happening just like on any other blockchain. But since some people interpreted governance on EOS, meaning that we could make certain actions that other blockchains wouldn't, our block producers we're instructed to create a blacklist of known spammy or fraudulent accounts and just freeze their funds until we could take another look at it. Well, understandably, non-EOS community went up in arms. But a lot of us in the EOS community went up in arms as well, because we didn't realize this was how the Constitution or how our governance structure was being interpreted. And we hated it. We couldn't stand it. We thought that this was a huge attack vector. So what happened was, that's a lot of backstory. What happened was this user got hacked months ago, but the block producers at the time were willing to listen to this ECAF is what it was called. That was like the governing body, ECAF. And they created this blacklist, and a new block producer got elected up into the top 21. So now they're legitimately producing live blocks on the blockchain, and they didn't have their blacklist updated. And so every single block producer would have had to have the same blacklist for it to be effective. And so since this one block producer didn't have it, didn't block this account, then as soon as that block producer came up to produce blocks, they allowed that transaction, which has been sitting idle for months, waiting for something like this to happen. And it got put in a block and then got distributed to hundreds of accounts. And that's what happened.
Ah, okay. Wait, walk me through. It's kind of, when you're saying that the EOS community is up in arms about this, like, it does seem like a huge vulnerability in the system, right?
The vulnerability was the ECAF idea of how governance should be structured. So this was a mistake early on in the EOS community at large. We're trying to figure out governance. EOS is a governed blockchain, and we vote every 60 or 90 seconds. And so we're trying, just like everyone else, we're trying to figure out, how do we govern ourselves with a blockchain community? And some people who were influential early on said, we're this type of government, and we oversee the block producers and make sure that they're not acting nefariously or vote buying or stuff like that. And this is stolen money. This is property theft. And we think, we instruct you to freeze it so that the thief doesn't get away with the property theft. And that was an idea at first. But since then, we're no longer accepting or abiding by ECAF rulings, because we did, just like you, we saw that it was an attack vector. It was one of our largest attack vectors.
And so what happens there? Like, the blacklist is still there.
We're trying to figure that out. Is
that just a legacy that's a holdover, but you're no longer blacklisting anymore?
We're no longer blacklisting anymore because we've pretty much disbanded ECAF at this time. And I'm really proud of a lot of the community, freedom-minded community members binding together here to do that. But the blacklist is still there. And this is actually one of the hot topics within EOS community right now, is now we're saddled with this blacklist. We're saddled with this bullshit constitution that was written by a bunch of legacy thinking politicians. No personal offense, but that's what they were writing for. And what do we do? How do we grow, right? How do we move past this? Yeah. But this is growth. This is growth.
It's like, I mean, anyone who is interested in like libertarian philosophy, etc., they would immediately look at a system like that and say, wait, you're giving an elite group of people the power to determine what is and isn't, you know, stolen goods, what isn't spam, what isn't harassment. Like, I mean, as soon as you put that power in a centralized hands, it can easily be corrupted and leveraged.
It's absurd, honestly. But it had, like most other government programs, it had good intention. You know, we are a quite libertarian base in EOS, and we were experimenting with ways to protect property rights from rightful owners. And in this case, the user was the rightful owner of this property. We went about it using a really poor way of trying to help people keep their property rights. And, you know, we're definitely learning lessons. But just, you know, I see a lot of FUD. People love the FUD EOS anyways. But I think there's two important points here. In any other chain, this money would have been gone. It had been thieved away, and it would have, you know, the user has no chance. In EOS, we're trying to get creative around ways to help people protect their life, liberty, and property. And doing that on the base layer is what we're finding we shouldn't mess with. And so this type of wallet security, account security, all this stuff is moving obviously to the dApp layer into wallets and stuff like that. But, you know, we screwed up. What can I say?
Well, that's the wonderful thing about these experiments, right? Is that people always have these ideas, and there are always unintended consequences that come from anything that you're going to, any sort of principle or policy that you're going to enact. And what's great about this is that we're experimenting right now. We're experimenting with governance in money. We are trying to separate state and money as well. You know, how can we incorporate some of that into the protocol layer? And I like that there's experimentation out there. Even if it's failing, that's still giving us information about how centralization can, you know, hurt systems. Maybe this could be like a lesson we could learn for the broader economy. Yeah,
for sure. And look, we're pulling apart government and property rights here, right? We're trying to dissect the government's role in helping us both establish and protect our own property. And this is literally an evolutionary process that we're so blessed to live in, you know, to see this unfolding. And if people are going around and, you know, just casting FUD for experimentation, then, and I don't know what to say. This is what it takes. It's a slow and sloppy process. Oh, Chris, jump in here, man.
Well, I mean, you portrayed it pretty accurately. I mean, when EOS was first launched and everybody first really started seeing how this was going to work and how the blacklist was going to work, there were a lot of people freaking out. It was what do you mean these people are the ultimate authority? They can lock up my funds. They can take my funds. There were talks about people taking funds that were idle for too long and stuff like that. And it was really, and it was really against the whole, you know, your coins, your keys philosophy that was in crypto, where no, this wasn't the final authority. Your keys were not the final authority. And the way EOS has evolved, it's really been quite interesting, because there was the original people who set things up and then as the last, you know, whatever 8 months have gone on, there's been a lot of discussion among the block producers. And it's also kind of interesting because there are sort of the two major groups of block producers. I mean, there's the Chinese group of block producers that doesn't communicate outside itself, and then everybody else. And getting those,
that's a little bit of FUD there.
A little bit of FUD, but at the same time,
we're definitely bridging East and West more and more over time.
Yeah, I'm not saying that is a static. That's how it's going to be forever. But that is sort of a lot of how that's going. The communities over there and the communities in the rest of the world have not been interfacing that much, and that has caused some consternation whenever there have been issues in the block producer level. And I'm not talking about that will be the way long term. Obviously, I mean, this is part of. Again, we are separating money from government here, and all of this from government. So the national borders and whatnot, the communities that naturally form around nationality need to be broken down a little bit more. And that is a time, that is a process. Even little communities, you still get regional communities dedicated towards individual countries. And when you have, you know, something like EOS, where theoretically, hopefully, I mean, what do we have to, like 25% people voting now? I can't quite recall what the numbers are.
And I'm looking for secession and splintering, as we're already seeing in the EOS mainnet. You know, it's been my hypothesis for several months now that the EOS mainnet is, I know your listeners may laugh at this, too decentralized. It has too many types of cultures trying to integrate with each other that have various understandings of property rights, various understandings of how to build business and run run their governance layer. And so EOS mainnet is an absolute sandbox experimentation of the third iteration of delegated proof of stake. And I love seeing other people spin up their own EOS IO chains and play with the inflation or play with the governance. That's the most exciting part for me. If you follow me on Twitter, you think I'm an EOS maximalist, but I for sure am not, because I'm a competition in the marketplace to protect property maximalist.
Absolutely, as we all should be. Let's talk about some of the other hacks that have been going on, because I mean, there's a lot that we've covered on the show in the past, and these are two things that have been in the past that we're still getting updates on. So first of all, we've got what's going on with Quadriga. So in a nutshell, if you haven't been tuning into the show in the past weeks, we've been following this story about this guy who ran this exchange, Quadriga. He apparently dies. Apparently, he held the only copy of the private key that unlocks the cold storage, and these funds go missing. But there was like this whole backstory where there's all this money being moved just before the death, and then it's like it's not clear that he's actually dead, and he's not clear that Quadriga wasn't about to go under before this death was announced, and then the death blamed on the inaccessibility of the funds blamed on the death. So there's a lot to unpack there. So this continues, and actually Jesse Powell of Kraken, he's just offered a $100,000 reward for the missing Quadriga crypto. So that's interesting. This is something that we've seen a lot of debates also happen. I think Brian Armstrong was in a Twitter stream, Twitter war, whatever you want to call it, with someone else who they were hashing what actually happened with Quadriga, right? And they were kind of discussing, like, Brian was saying that, you know what, maybe the management took this as an opportune moment to say, we can't get access to funds, which is a way of like declaring bankruptcy, because lots of dodgy things were happening already. And then someone else was saying, no, it was a fake death that was to that ends as well, but the death actually didn't happen. So lots going on there. Now we have on top of that Jesse Powell offering this reward, and we have the widow of the Quadriga CX CEO who's denying hiding any assets from crypto creditors. So I think there's like $136 million that are currently inaccessible, and 500,000 of that was just added a week ago or 2 weeks ago when they accidentally sent more money to the inaccessible cold wallet. So I think it's interesting that Jesse has put this reward forward, because this could be a way, as we were talking about, like the non-fungibility of Bitcoin and blacklisted coins, and in the chat people were talking about that as well. When you're talking about being able to blacklist or freeze funds, for example. I mean, you can do that in Bitcoin at the moment. You can blacklist addresses, and so this would be an interesting way to say, listen, we're going to clean this money for you. I'll give you $100,000 of this if you return all of this missing money that's there, and the $100,000 you could go and use, right? But this other stuff, it's going to be hard to move it around. People are going to know that it came from these wallets. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
Everybody's figuring out the blacklist.
Well, I mean, that's been going around crypto space for years. I mean, if you happen to touch coins in the wrong address and try to send those coins into an exchange, you're going to have a bad day.
Sure. Yeah, I love that Jesse's coming out and doing this, at a sizable amount of money too, because this shows you how we're regulating ourselves. And truth is something that is very popular, and people are willing to put resources on the line to try to find truth. And this is that type of free market regulation that I wish we had more time as free people to establish before governments came in and started regulating for us. But look, this is a level of potential ostracization that we could have against Quadriga if it comes out that some really shady stuff was going, and $100,000 is a lot of cash to come, start coming clean with some stuff. Yeah,
for sure. And it's not even about like turn over this missing money and we'll give you a token amount in exchange. It's saying, listen, if you can give us the best leads that actually lead to the recovery of this money, we'll give that to you as well. So it's really interesting, and also very generous of Jesse, because that's a huge amount of money that's locked up that people have lost. And if this is a way to be, helping incentivize people to come forward with information, that's really awesome of Jesse to do that. And really not out of character for Jesse. He's constantly doing awesome things. So Have to, Jesse.
Yeah, hat off to you, Jesse.
Yeah, entertainingly enough, a different blog, Zero Nonsense, posted that they think they identified where about $90 million worth of ETH out of Quadriga ended up.
Oh,
but they think it's spread across a few different exchanges, Kraken, Bitfinex, and Poloniex.
The shotgun effect.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if I'm not sure how accurate their research is. This just popped up a couple hours ago.
Crypto Twitter doesn't need research. Don't worry.
I
know. Nobody expects that. You just please. We don't expect it.
Yeah, but I just found it quite interesting that on my news feed I see the Kraken offers the reward, and then the very next item is 90 million worth of ETH located.
Somebody's getting paid. Jesse's writing a check.
We'll see what happens. But that's from according to this article, it's 190 million total missing. So this would be almost half of it, that's
great.
Would be really nice. But that's all in ETH apparently.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Oh, and AnyPay just said in the chat that Smart is now supported on AnyPay. So that's pretty awesome. I thought that I would let you know, Chris.
Oh, that's new to me now. Okay, cool. They did get a proposal passed. So
whatever happens in a chat on the internet by some unverified source is definitely true. So that we just broke the news right there.
No, yeah. Derek just sent me a message that yes, Smart is now live on AnyPay. Okay,
that's awesome.
Very cool.
So we'll have to check out on AnyPay. But let's go on to the next hack, because there's one other thing I want to talk about, which is Cryptopia. We have talked about this in the past. This obviously, this was the New Zealand hack that happened, and we've discussed this at length on the show. What's going on there? And so this is the first time that Cryptopia has really come out with any information about this. They've disclosed the estimated amount that was stolen there, and they said that they calculated worst case was 9.4% of their total holdings were stolen, which is pretty significant. It's as much as $16 million worth of Ether there. So lots of hacks going around. Maybe it warrants another episode about best practices for storing your crypto, because someone's not getting the message.
I still find all these hacks, just the timing so closely after the Proof of Keys event, just really does not lead me to have a lot of confidence in any of this.
Do you really think that the Proof of Keys made that much of a dent? I mean, the number of people who probably even tweeted out that and were like, yeah, love this concept. Also, can't be bothered moving it. Just going to leave it where it is. I think definitely that happening.
Yeah, yes and no, but I mean, at least 4, if not 5 exchanges had issues in January right around the day of the Proof of Keys event. I mean, coincidences and all, but that's
I think that's a great point. But I will point out, like when Mt. Gox was happening, I have so many friends who lost money in that. They knew that there were like malleability issues for months. They knew that there were issues and things were going down, and yet they were too lazy to move their funds. So I have friends who lost huge amounts of money in Mt. Gox, and their only excuse is, yeah, I didn't get around to it. So it's like, I agree that it's suspicious timing, but I also believe in the inherent laziness of so many people. So, I would love to see data on how much crypto was moved beforehand and how much of that we attribute to Proof of Keys, for example.
Yeah, I was right there with you about, I don't think enough people really did anything, because that was based on what I was seeing on the blockchain. There wasn't like a huge spike of transactions or anything like that.
But I mean,
but at the same time,
because I think people, it would have been great if it had all happened on January 3rd, right?
Yeah.
Instead, there was like a long build up and announcements and people like saying, oh, well, I'll move mine now and all of this stuff. It would have been actually really cool to say, okay, just on this day, let's do it all at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would have been very interesting to see how that played out.
Yeah, but the people who really might be a problem would not have that day. They would have wanted to front run and pull their stuff out, because you don't want to be the guy whose coins prove that they're fractional reserving.
Yeah, if you know about a day that Proof of Keys, it kind of spoils the whole surprise there.
Absolutely. Like we proved that this is all just a house of cards. Oh.
Thanks for the 2 months head start here. We'll get our ship in order.
Goodness me. All right, so let's also talk about, we're talking about like coins being returned and recovered. We also have Bitcoins returned to Bitfinex by the US government. So let's talk about
Good job. Nailed it. How many Bitcoin were stolen back in the day?
It was 27.6627028 BTC.
Oh no, I was saying back in the day, how many tens of or hundreds of thousands of tokens were stolen back in the day, and they were able to recover 27.5 for us.
Thank you, government.
Yeah,
all of that money we're paying you is worth it.
We're Ralph Wiggum going, I'm helping.
Yeah, I know. It's like, yeah. I mean, I'm always glad when stolen property is returned to rightful owners, but this just kind of seemed like some non-news news. I mean, I don't think we're in that slow of a news cycle right now in crypto. Maybe the government pushed to get this out to show what, they're on the ball and how generous they are with their time. But okay, wake me up when 100,000 Bitcoin is returned to Bitfinex.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be less negative than I usually am, I could say that this is positive in that the government is recognizing that there are rightful owners to the Bitcoin, and they are considering worthwhile to return the Bitcoin to its rightful owners. Like, they are recognizing the property rights of people who hold crypto by doing this.
I know that's asking a lot of them.
But I know it's I mean, glass is full, but still, come on.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, oh, you're going to recognize our ownership of our own property. Well, that's really nice of you.
Well, I mean, I agree with this though. Like, if we're talking about like the bills that Caitlin Long has just pushed through in Wyoming, and how there are literally states like Nevada who have now passed bills, who are looking to pass bills that say you cannot have direct ownership of certain securities and digital assets. That
reminds me of gold, right?
Like, this is a huge thing that the government is saying we're going to give it back to you. They're not giving it back to Chase Morgan to say, oh, identify which of these people have a bank account with you and then distribute it, and you're a custodian. Like, the government really, like, we don't realize how far behind we are in terms of property rights of the government. We live in this world where, like, oh, property is the thing, and the government's there saying, sure it is, honey.
Yeah, oh yeah, you own all your property.
By the way, it's your property, but just you have to funnel it through these intermediaries, and they'll take care of it for you.
And give us a cut.
Holding it.
Yeah. So, and have fun.
Yeah, so it is a big thing. Like, I agree with Chris. Like, but I agree with both of you. Like, this shouldn't be an issue. Obviously,
it's like it shows you how low our bar is set for the government. It's like, yes, we're like finding optimism in the fact that they're acknowledging that we have created property and that we own it. I mean, these guys can piss off.
Yeah.
100% agree with you, but as I said, I'll try to find that silver lining once in a while. Come on.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I appreciate that.
So, talking about the other side of things, where it's not, government not recognizing property rights and all of that lovely stuff. On the other side of things, we have Casa, who's introduced sovereignty as a service. So, I wanted to chat a little bit about this because I love this catchphrase that's come about through blockchain tech, where you have tokens as a service, public blockchains as a service. Now we have sovereignty as a service. And I just think it really kind of hits home. Like, it gets back to the roots of what this is about. Like, Casa, they're a company that that allows you to run a full node, and they're kind of always supporting the idea of everyone should run a full node, and this that's the only way we'll be decentralized. And I'd love to talk about that because there's huge dissension in the crypto community about how necessary that is, etc. But that aside, I really do love the idea that they're pushing this, and they're saying, listen, we're going to make it easier than ever to be in complete control of your finances. Like, I love that ethos, whether it's unnecessary or superfluous or whatever you might want to say. If you're against this sort of stuff, I love the idea that that's what they're about, and they're just trying to make this as universal as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yes, such a moral cause. I mean, as much as I disagree with the idea that everyone should be running their full nodes, I think that it's a great experiment. A lot of people are very passionate that this is the way forward for freedom, and they're making it easier than ever to do that. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. I'm in full support of it.
Yeah. So in this this Crypto Insider article I've got here, it says Casa is a software company which sells user autonomy via competent software. So
competent.
I think that's a cool way of phrasing it, right? They're making it easier than ever. They're taking away the friction so that people can have autonomy, even if they're technologically inept. So they're kind of aiming this product at people like myself,
It's like, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure about my competency level, but my software is competent. So here. Yeah, I'm upgrading here.
Most people would say like excellent software, high quality software, you know, but
it's like, what is this?
Okay.
AI software? Is this the introduction here? A botnet?
We're
The Bitcoin
solid
botnet?
C.
Yeah. Oh no, it's wonderful. And I hope they really run PR and marketing wise with the sovereignty as a service. As
I know, I love it.
Angle. Big salute to them for coming up with that catchphrase. I think it could literally catch on.
Absolutely. And the whole idea about what Casa is about as well, it's about privacy above all else. It's about like hosting your own data. It's about like trying to get away from this paradigm that we have at the moment where we just take for granted that people are going to be collecting your data. They'll do what they want. There's, you know, nothing we can do to stop it. They're about, you know, complete autonomy in as many ways as possible and providing the tools so people can achieve that. So it's just, I mean, that's a really cool thing to stand for.
Yep, I agree.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You mentioned recently, like the green candle that we saw recently. Getting so excited. So do you want to talk about the market briefly?
Yeah, sure. Look, I'm not a trader. I'm a value investor type of person. I did see some people absolutely losing their shit on Twitter about the first green monthly close candle. So February was the first month since July of last year where the price of Bitcoin in US dollar terms was higher than when it opened that month. And, you know, I just want to throw a little bit of caution here. One green monthly candle does not end a bear market necessarily. So everybody feeling the FOMO, I hope you step back and take a few breaths. As the market caps of these tokens and of this space in general grows, so does the duration of the cycles. And so I would not be surprised for us to retest the lows once, twice, 3 times, and even hopefully move sideways for another 12 to 18, 24 months. But it shows you how quick the Lambos and Moon stuff comes back out, you know, when we get a little rally. But I'm just caution out there.
Yeah, it's pretty funny to watch. But yeah, I agree.
It's like we've still got it. We've still got it back there. We're still the same crypto communities that get excited. So don't get me wrong, I love it. Bear market be damned. We had a full month.
So one thing I do want to mention. So we talked a little bit about the lightning torch last week, which I think is always interesting. Like there's a huge amount of hype around all of this going on. It's funny because I had some friends here who one of them was involved in the lightning torch when it happened, and then they tried to send money on, and then it failed a few times, and then they were talking about like the lightning pizza, and so there's a lot of like detractors who's kind of saying like this isn't a working thing, it's not a working solution. I personally I don't think it's where it needs to be at the moment. We're at very early stages, and I'm optimistic that we get there. I hope that it works. And I actually participated today in the tiny lightning torch, which apparently is another thing being sent around. Apparently when Jack kind of handed off the lightning torch and now it's kind of out of the crypto community. Now this is a smaller one that people have started that has been passed around. So I sent 62 whole Satoshis on Monday. I received them from Crypto Brekkie. So thank you, Crypto Brekkie, for sending that. But I was actually like, with all of the FUD that's being passed around about lightning and honestly my own doubts as well, and I have a lot of doubts, it was surprisingly easy to do it. So I literally just downloaded a wallet on my mobile device, which I was unaware was a thing you could do. I thought that, you know, Lightning couldn't work on cell phones, and apparently that's not. I downloaded Blue Wallet. It took me 2 seconds. I received the money, and then I sent it off again, and boom, it took me about 10 minutes total. And that was a long time simply because my data was bad when I was downloading the app, you know? So I just want your thoughts on all of this stuff, like the FUD versus the hype. Like, I think there are two extremes happening there, and where we're actually at is somewhere in the middle.
Chris?
I've never been a fan of Lightning. Never been a fan of Lightning. It's going to be one of those things that I think will bring too much centralization to the Bitcoin, really any other coin that uses it. It's not, yeah, it was easy for you to do. You open the channel, you sent stuff through, but for the average person, they're not going to really be doing two direction Bitcoin transactions. Their channel's going to be open. They're going to send some stuff through and close it. They're going to have to lock up their coins when they open the channel. There's that added security risk. So how much do I really want to lock up? Because there are added risks when it comes to the Lightning Network. Overall, I think this sort of second layer scaling is not the right answer for a blockchain solution.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's one of many scaling solutions, right? And I think that a lot of people have this paradigm that they're working in where they say one solution is going to be the thing we use. It's going to be Lightning. Everything's going to
it's one solution because this is in their opinion, just technically the absolute best. There's, nothing is going to be as technically sound.
And I think I missed the point that there are so many competing scaling solutions right now. And what we're going to end up with is probably a hybrid of all of it. I mean, that's what Andreas said when I chatted to him, and I was trying to talk through all the FUD that was happening with like block size debate. And he said, well, people are missing the point. Like, it's all just about ego and politics and whose do we implement first. But the reality is we're probably going to have a mix of all of these different things operating.
For sure. And we're already starting to see that. I mean, some people are taking the Lightning approach. Some people are taking the bigger block approach. Some people are taking different consensus mechanism approaches like delegated proof of stake that is currently provably handling a lot of transactions. The rest of this year is going to be absolutely amazing because we're getting to the point in the development cycle of some of this stuff, the scaling stuff, that some people are going to ship product and some people aren't. And at some point, we're no longer going to have to theorize about what's going to work and what's not working, because things will be working. And empirically, when something's working, it's going to draw more attention than something which is theoretically, technically superior, but not working. So at least that's where I stand.
Yeah, I tried to deconstruct like how Lightning works and all of this in a recent interview. And if I'm being honest, I feel like I didn't quite get there. I feel like it's hard to have conversations about this because it really is a polarizing topic. You have people who are all like, everything is invested in it, and so they won't answer your questions, which are real concerns because they kind of will glaze over a lot of them. But then on the other side, you have detractors who are like, it's the worst thing to ever happen in the world, and so you don't get a good understanding of where we actually sit, like an actual dialogue discussion about where the technology lies, what it's going to be useful for. Like, my biggest concern that I actually brought up at the Satoshi Roundtable was the idea that we were talking about that it's difficult, that the average person probably isn't going to be able to open a channel easily, and so you're going to have these third parties who will take on that role and they'll set it up for people. It'll become this service, but then what happens there is they have to make money for providing that service, so you add fees to the mix there. And on top of that, we're in this weird regulatory gray zone as well. Do they then become money transmitters because they are funneling people's money? They're providing that service through that, which is a real possibility. And once you introduce the idea of money transmitters, you've just added huge compliance costs, which add another 5% on whatever transaction you're making. So these are questions. They're not necessarily issues that are going to take place, but they're definitely concerns we should be discussing and figuring out, like, what are the solutions to this? Is there a solution? Is there a better way to do it, etc.?
Yeah. And I agree with Chris that I'll give you Thorne just one sec, Chris. I agree with Chris that Lightning probably will end up much more centralized than what the Bitcoin Core faithful like to admit or think right now. But on the others, arguing the other side of that is this whole shift from complete centralization to complete decentralization isn't a light switch. And so even if Lightning does end up centralized at some level, we're competing in a world now where are you and your community okay? Like, what level of centralization are you okay with? And Lightning could play a big part of that.
And we have to realize that, like, we use centralization as a dirty word because Bitcoin was created to be a decentralized, uncensorable money. That's really the epitome of what we're trying to do.
And that's the goal, right? Idealistically, that's the goal.
But then what you need to realize is, as you said, like, spot on, there are levels and there's different friction levels that people are comfortable with. So, if we want to onboard more people, there are trade-offs that happen there. And so it's about figuring out what are the different tiers that we can set up for people, how do we make it so that the most people possible are using the most decentralized tech possible?
Yeah, for sure.
I agree with that. Well, decentralization is one of those things. It's not just a two-dimensional. There's not centralized on this end and decentralized on this end. There's a matter of what do you mean by decentralization? I mean, you could have a network that has 50,000 nodes around the world, but one guy's developing for it.
Right.
Is that decentralized? Is that centralized? What do you really mean? And what's your goal with decentralization?
Mm-hmm.
And most people really think about decentralization as censorship resistance. They don't want the government to be able to come in or any.
And it's censorship by whom? Right. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing where that was a lot of the big strife with the EOS is crap. These 21 people can censor anything they want, but but that's what really a lot of people, I think, go for in centralization, and then they tie that into all these other things. Oh, you're just a centralized shitcoin,
right?
Whatever,
missing the fact that everyone's trying to experiment with a level of centralization while keeping that censorship resistance and blockchain based money and stuff like that.
And if you're a brand new coin with 3 people working on it, I mean, how decentralized could you possibly be?
Right.
It takes time to build up that community, build up the different kinds of decentralization. So, you're right with Lightning in that, I mean, it's not necessarily as centralized as some things could be, and it's certainly not as decentralized as the great peer-to-peer dream of Bitcoin was. Mm-hmm. But the issue, that Naomi brought up with Lightning is the whole money handler thing. And who are these Lightning nodes going to be? I mean, sure, there's, like with EOS, you have the 21 block producers. They are groups of people. They aren't government entities. They probably aren't banks. They aren't these other people. But with Lightning, who's most likely going to be willing to lock up a large amount of Bitcoin in this channel? It's going to be banks. It's going to be these kinds of people. And so that's where, when we're talking about overly centralized, that's really the concern that we're talking about with Lightning and the mechanism that it does. And a lot of people on the tech side really feel that Bitcoin has given up on the on-chain scaling way too early in the game. There's plenty of other Bitcoin-derived coins out there that can handle a whole bunch more transactions than Bitcoin can quite stably. And there's no reason that Bitcoin couldn't do that as well, except for the politics of the situation.
For sure. It's, I hope it works out for them. It's a very risky positioning to take, is that, I mean, even the stories of people wanting to reduce the Bitcoin block size to create the higher fees to push people to Lightning. I mean, good luck with them. It's a very tough space to build in, but I'm just glad there's competition.
Yeah, I'm glad there's competition. And as we said, we don't know who's going to be running these channels, but the thing is that there doesn't seem to be barriers to entry at the moment. Anyone could set up a channel and then do an uncensored transaction. If you're going to be using the more centralized channels there is a possibility that maybe your transaction might not got through. Maybe it will be censored. It won't ever be notarized to the blockchain. But there is still, there are ways around that. And the thing about Lightning that I do like is that it's voluntary. You don't have to use it. But as you mentioned, what happens if you want to do something on chain? It kind of becomes less feasible the more that transaction fees go up, for example. So we'll have to see what happens. As I said, I'm optimistic and I hope that it succeeds. But I am definitely listening to concerns that a lot of people have, for sure. I want to just mention a shout out. So on Bitbacker, these are posts that I didn't read out before, so I'll just read them out at the end. So I've Got Your Back sent me as a Bitcoin Cash and said, "You've been killing it lately." Thank you. I really appreciate that. And Japan Anon sent me $3 in Bitcoin and said, "Saw your interview with Spanyi. Definitely enjoyed it. Thanks for making it. And this Power Chat is brought to you by the magic of XMR.to, which is a way that you can actually spend Monero and it gets transferred or exchanged at the point of sale. So that's really cool as well. Thank you so much to those people who use Bitbacker. I really appreciate it. And a huge thank you to Cybercode Twins for sending through.
Yeah, Cybercode Twins. Cybercode Twins. I met them in London back in September. They're awesome.
Yeah, they are really awesome. I met them in Puerto Rico, and
I believe they're associated with the Shios block producer on the EOS mainnet as well. So a little shout out there.
Oh, there you go. Well, we have run out of time here. I really appreciate your time, Ash and Chris. It's great having both of you on here. And Ash, I always do, when you come on the show, just an update for everyone. How is your foot?
It's amazing. I'm not ready for a dance battle again yet, but I'm in training right now, and just wait a couple more weeks.
Fantastic. So Chris is just like, what? I'm talking about. So Yeah, Satoshi Roundtable Ash. Ash did some killer dance moves, but too killer for his foot. Sliced it open, blood literally rolling down the floor. Ash, am I going to post photos of that? Because
I don't think so. Oh, come on. Now it's just going to be too embarrassing.
Let me just what happened there. So I'm doing karaoke, and I'm like destroying Whitney Houston, and not in a good way, like destroying it terribly. And then I finished at the end and realized that someone had stolen the show. And it was the man who put blood literally all over the dance floor. There's just like red like I don't know how much blood you lost that night. But that was
got to part it.
And so obviously, being a great friend, my immediate response was just like, "Oh my God, Ash,
let me get you some vodka."
Great photo opportunity. And so I got some pictures of him as
see, now I've got to pay hush money here, Chris. You see how this happens?
That's how it goes.
This is the real revenue generating model of this podcast here, is embarrassing pictures of the guests, and then they have to pay hush money in Monero, I assume.
Obviously in Monero, the Twitter for hackers and all
don't. My advice to you: don't sing Whitney Houston after more than 2 drinks. That's big shoes to fill.
Well, no, don't sing it after more than 10 karaoke songs.
Yeah, there you go.
After which time you're just shouting. That's what you're doing. You're not singing anymore.
If that Whitney Houston high note doesn't hit and it's off key, you might send people backwards. That's what happened.
Singing literally caused blood loss. Okay.
Glad to hear that it's all better. And I look forward to getting that bribery money for the non-release of those pictures.
Yeah, it's coming right over.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both so much. I really appreciate your time and being here. Thank you to everyone in the chat. You guys are so awesome. I love you guys so much. And everyone who used the power chat or the super chat. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend, and go and enjoy yourselves, you lovely humans.
And go green candles.
Awesome. Wonderful. And just to close up, so really excited to announce a partnership with Crypto Insider, which is going to begin in my next episode, which is going to be really, really, really awesome. But that's a great news platform. If you guys aren't checking out their stuff on their platform, make sure you go and do that. And more news about that to come. All right. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.